This is Tom Fox. I'm the Compliance Evangelist. I would like to welcome you to an exciting new series I'm putting on each month in 2017. In the month of January, I'm going to go through 30 days to a better compliance program. So each day I will detail some part of a compliance program that you can utilize to help you improve to have a best practices compliance program for 2017. With the operationalization of compliance mandated by the Department of Justice in the form of their Compliance Council, Wei Chin, and incorporated into the FCPA pilot program announced by the Department of Justice in April 2016, it's more important than ever that you upgrade your compliance program and show how you've operationalized. In this series, I'm going to help you do that. I hope you will enjoy this series. I hope you will join me, and I look forward to this journey with you.
This is Tom Fox. Welcome to day 17 of 30 days to a better compliance program. Today I want to talk about uncovering shell companies, and here I'm indebted to my friend and colleague Ryan Hubbs for his article Shell Games in the 2014 issue of Fraud Magazine. There are three general areas you need to consider around shell companies. They are shell companies themselves, shelf companies, and the incorporators of both. In many instances, one shell company isn't enough. Fraudsters need a network. Dozens of shells, nominees, directors, addresses, and fake shareholders might be required to conceal a scheme or criminal plot. Criminal conspirators will utilize shell incorporators to do the heavy lifting and help create a corporate web of disguise that can perplex and confuse the best of investigators. So what are shelf companies? These are companies that are formed but not used for a long period of time. This provides the facade of appearing to be legitimate and fooling a novice investigator or a basic due diligence mechanism because it appears they've existed longer than they actually have done so. An older shelf company could predate any specific area of concern, which would allow you to engage in business with it when you obviously should not. But the creation of both shell and shelf companies is only one step. You have to have directors and nominees. Fraudsters use nominee directors, sometimes other shell companies, to disguise true owners of entities while giving the appearance of legitimacy. Some nominees simply sell their names to fraudsters who use them on corporate documents. Others actually provide limited services for the shell companies, such as processing corporate records or signing company documents. But it's these nominee directors who stand as the linchpins to linking and disguising both criminal cartels and money laundering schemes. So you've got to really be on the lookout for all of these. Related to these is to the names of the directors, and you will see multiple directors on multiple different types of shell companies, is international hotspots. Two cited by Hubbs include 103 Sham Feng Tong Plaza in Victoria Cellies, which has 160,000 hits associated with websites, companies, and individuals. Another address, P.O. Box 3444, Roadtown, Tortola, BVI, the British Virgin Islands, yields up 600,000 hits on a Google search. So these are some of the things that you need to look out for. But the key is that this is all available in public source data. So what are some of the basic questions you should be looking at from your own corporate data and information? If the information doesn't make sense, then you have a problem. You should look closely for entity information mismatch: address, phone, ship to, bank, sell, etc. Be very aware if an entity representative is associated with numerous other companies. Finally, you should review incoming and outgoing wire transfer documents to determine if a payment was made to an unrelated third party. But your own information is only the starting point. And here I want to lay out a 5-step process for you to do background investigation into shell companies that is available to you in public source data. So 1, web history. In this day and age, if a company does not have an active, up and running website, it should immediately raise a red flag. Fraudsters who want to establish shell companies must have websites to create the appearance of legitimate companies. But this requires old-fashioned gumshoe work. How can you tell if something's not right? While it may be as simple as the fact that it doesn't look right, it may require you to do cross-references and checking. Number 2, public record searches to identify owners and tracking to known associates. There's a variety of public information, which is a component of due diligence. Public records are an important source to link individuals and entities together. Next, number 3, you should map the network. The most important task for tracing and tracking shell companies and contacts is to be able to document the linkage between the information uncovered. This amount of leads, dead ends, and information can be overwhelming. Single piece of information could go so that a single piece of information could be unnoticed or unlinked. This means you need to map every piece of information, no matter how small. An address or a phone number could be the key to uncovering a shell network. Search online various combinations of phone numbers and addresses. All needs to be tied back together. There are mapping tools that are available to you, and you'd be well suited to use one of those. Number 4, WHOIS lookup for domain ownership and IP addresses. That's WHOIS, WHOIS. While many shell companies have been vigilant about concealing public records on the entities involved, the individual shell companies and shelf companies, the fraudsters aren't always as careful when it comes to setting up corresponding websites addresses. Using the WHOIS lookup search engines, you can discover such information as domain ownership, IP addresses, the physical address of the website administrators, their contact information, and finally, and most significantly, website creation details. So this can be an important cross-reference piece of information for you and one not to be overlooked. Finally, number 5, evaluating the online presence. This can be one of the most fruitful areas for investigators, as shell incorporators have a hard time faking an active and robust online presence because these companies technically don't exist. Some of the keys indicia of online authenticity include a well-designed website, the presence of other online content, periodic and regular updates of information, and finally, contact email addresses which are linked to a legitimate website, not free email accounts. So, really, there are 3 questions that I would ask you to consider regarding shell companies. Does it have an online presence? If it doesn't have an online presence, it's a huge red flag. Is the amount of online information available consistent with the goods or services that the entity says it's engaged in? And finally, is there too much free online posting of online information about the company? A final double check to all of this is SWIFT codes. A shell company can be set up practically anywhere, but incorporators widely use particular countries and regions. Such advantages include a lack of government enforcement or specific laws protecting corporate secrecy. A good source of a high-risk country list is the banking SWIFT codes, which is a unique identifier that's associated with financial and non-financial institutions around the world. After you identify the SWIFT code, you might want to monitor any funds originating or being distributed to those banks and check and see if any of the customers or vendors have banking accounts associated with specific banks. So what are the 3 key takeaways for this? And I guess the first is I would ask you to think about, have you even looked for shell companies? Do you have any mechanism to do so? After the Panama Papers came out, many went to the database and simply said, well, the company I'm doing business with is not in the database, so I'm clear. That's only the start. You must go beyond that. Point number 2, that this is really a time-intensive, not cost-intensive exercise. I went through the 5 tools that Ryan Hubbs has advocated using. Those are publicly available information databases. That's work that you can do on your own or someone in your firm can do. So use open source data. And then finally, you need to go back and review your previously approved third-party list, because you probably did not do this type of search. You probably did not double-check, certainly to determine whether or not the companies were on the database list from the Panama Papers. And so having the ability to go back and look is going to be critical going forward. I hope you have enjoyed today's day 17 of 30 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program on uncovering shell companies, and I hope you will join me for day 18. This is Tom Fox. Thank you very much for listening.